So how did you envision this monochrome underwater scene, if that's really what it is?
Well, it sort of is. Um, I think what I wanted to do was I wanted to give the monochrome is important to me, besides the fact that I love Louise Nevelson's work. And I think that the fact that she's works in monochrome a lot is very powerful
It's very effective.
imagery.
Very
Um,
effective.
but metaphorically, I wanted people to look at the plastics and see them as all the same petrochemical stuff.
Hmm.
So when we look at all the plastics in our lives, it's shiny, it's different colors, it's different textures. It doesn't look the same at all. So I don't think we think about it as all the same stuff because it's so different.
Right.
There's not that much similarity between your car bumper and your flip flops and your earbuds and your sandwich bag, but they are all the same. And the
Hmm.
and the plastic cup that you drink out of and throw away, or the water bottle. And we think of plastics as recyclable. Oh, we're going to be really good and make sure we wash out all our containers and put them in the recycle thing. Well, that doesn't do any good at all. Um, and the bare facts of the matter is the stuff is unrecyclable. And
And a lot of it is ending up in our waterways,
oh
in the
yeah,
ocean.
it's ending up in our food. I mean,
Yeah.
it's in our bodies. I mean, they've done the footwork at this point. And the petrochemical companies know darn well it's unrecyclable, all of it.
Hmm.
And there's been some articles recently in Grist, in the New York Times. Um, it's coming out that you can say you're recycling, but it's a sham. It's
Yeah.
nothing is really getting recycled compared
There,
to the volume that we're making.
there have been some articles lately about the microparticles from plastics that are getting in the food supply, getting
Oh,
in the air that we're
oh
breathing
yeah,
and absorbing into our bodies.
absolutely. I mean, you got it in your bloodstream, I got it in mine,
Hmm.
and our kids have it worse because they're the ones who see when we were young, it wasn't that prevalent. So we got to into our 20s and maybe even into our 30s, or certainly into our 20s, without everything we were consuming having been wrapped and contained in plastic.
Hmm.
Our kids are growing up where pretty much everything they've ever eaten has been exposed to plastic, and some of it's leaching. They finally have admitted what basically I've thought for years is that if you drink water out of a plastic water bottle, you are going to get some plastic molecules
Hmm.
in that water. Well,
Hmm.
they're finally admitting that's true.
Yeah.
So great,
Not to mention the PCBs.
Well, supposedly they got those particular things out of the water
uh,
bottles. The
uh,
problem is that there's all these other chemicals, which are estrogen mimics also, but it's not, just because they've gotten rid of the PCBs, they basically have replaced them with a very similar molecule with a slightly different name. So
hmm.
they're getting away with it still because it's economically advantageous for the petrochemical companies, for Coca-Cola and Pepsi and all the big bottlers to keep using plastic because their assembly lines are set up for that. There's no incentive for them to change unless the government makes a regulation.
Hmm.
You
Hmm.
know, otherwise there will be no incentive for change. So I feel pretty strongly about that one.
Yeah. So you've really made an incredibly strong statement here of trying to make people aware of the plastics around us and where they end up. Uh, do you have a message of hope for the future?
Well, I think that the stuff that's in the environment now we're going to be stuck with for 10,000 years, some of it a little less than that. But my hope is that they get their act together. And when I say they, I mean a combination of the governments of the world, because there is an international plastics treaty that's percolating its way through the UN and other bodies like that, where you can get some international agreements about stopping the production. But another big thing is the technology. See, because we humans came up with all these different varieties of plastic from this one original invention of a petrochemical shop full of some other little chemical, and then it had certain qualities. We can make this stuff out of algae or out of fungus, fungi, or we can. I've read a piece already about they're not making it to scale yet, but a lab in California has come up with a viable product because they made enough of it that they've been able to really test it. It's 90 or 95% algae.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know whether it's from kelp or something that they're growing in a vat, algae, single-celled algae, but they're mixing it with about 5 or 10% petrochemicals, plastic.
Right.
And it's got all the qualities that the plastic had. They said they cannot find anything they can't do with it that they couldn't do with the other full on 100% petrochemical.
Mm-hmm.
But it decomposes in like 5 years into totally non-toxic stuff, except that 5%. So
that would be fantastic.
Yeah, no, I mean, the game changers are out there technologically. The thing that has to happen is that on an industrial scale, there have to be regulations that push the industries to make the change, because the industries don't want you, because it's going to cost them money to make a shift. Anytime you make changes, you have to retool things. You have to, it's like the coal-fired power plants. They can be reconditioned to using this wonderful geothermal technology that they've come up with. That the technology exists. You drill these amazingly long underground tunnels. It's almost like fracking, but you're not fracking. You're not fracking for oil or gas. You're fracking for heat, because what they're doing is you can run these tunnels, and you can run them deep enough that you can actually heat water, and you run water through these tunnels, just water, and then it comes up essentially boiling, and then you run the same turbines and the same boilers that you used to run with the coal, so they can locate these things at existing power plants.
Right.
So there's all kinds of things that can happen. I'm not, climate change is happening, and the cities that are at sea level, they're going to have to adapt or be underwater. And a bunch of American cities will probably be underwater. Sections of them, we're just going to lose them. And the barrier islands, they're just going to be gone in my lifetime. Even I'm 60.
I think as a society, we have to learn to find a way to pay for these alternative measures. And that's really what it boils down to, is companies don't want to spend the money for these technologies.
Yep. It's true. Yeah.
If we as a society and our government make it economically feasible for them to do this, then that's a huge incentive. I just heard an interview today about carbon sequestration in underground wells, but there are some problems with that in terms of leakage.
I don't think that's gonna work too well. But I think it's a real short-term solution. I don't have much faith in those, but I think that over a long period of time, we can do something. And the planet's going to keep going. I mean, human habitat, what is inhabitable, what the climate will support in terms of how much food we can produce once all these areas that are now food producing are going to be too hot and dry to produce or flooded. The world's food supply is going to get very unstable over the rest of my lifetime. I mean, I'm going to be 68, and we're going to see some really pretty wicked changes. But the world's going to keep turning.
Yeah. And the world may have to get rid of us before it can heal.
Well, the numbers are probably going to drop. I mean, when I was born, there were 350 billion people on the planet, and now there are 8. So if there isn't something obviously going to be a problem about that, then you're not. Then the people who are thinking about it aren't thinking.
Yeah, yeah.
Because of course it's not going to work very well. So that's what I make my art about, and I'm going to keep doing it. And if I had my wishes, I would get to put this up somewhere else. I would really love to be able to install this again.
It's certainly something that more people need to see. So I hope that happens. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me about this. I think your story and your installation here is fantastic. It makes a very powerful statement. It's very well executed, and I'm glad to have gotten to know you.
Thank you, Marcos. It's been really a pleasure.
Thank you, Taina.